This is OnePlus Bike. As you can see, my Shimano XT hub came loose during my race, so it's time for me to fix it. Let's take a look. If you like mountain biking, racing mountain biking, and working on mountain bikes, you should consider subscribing to OnePlus Bike right now. If not, that's cool too. Removing your wheel from your bike is always a great place to start when you're working on your hubs. I always make sure I remove my brake rotors just to make sure I don't get any grease on them. Once I do that, I remove the dust cover from the hub. I happen to have an old pair of tweezers laying around that was perfect for this job, but I imagine you could do it with a flathead screwdriver as well. There's 2 dust covers, one on each side of the hub. Make sure you get both of them. Once you have that done, typically you have to use cone wrenches to loosen this lock nut. This is why mine was loose. The lock nut had come loose on the rotor side of my hub. Make sure you pay extra careful attention to the order of which these washers come off of your hub. Very, very important. Once you have all those parts off, you can spin the rest of the cone off. I actually don't know what that's officially called. I just looked it up and it is actually called a cone, so I was right. So take your cone off and remove the axle from the hub. Make sure you wash your cone down with some WD-40 or some sort of solvent. Do both cones, remove any grease, make sure everything's clean, blah, 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 blah. Then you have your bearings that are inside of your hub right now. Be very careful when you remove these because dropping those into the hub kind of is a pain in the butt to get those out. Once you get all the bearings out, make sure you wipe down the race, which I believe is just a fancy term for where the bearings sit inside the hub. Once you have that cleaned up, make sure you put new grease in, packing that race so you can put the bearings back in once you clean them up with solvent. Or if you have new bearings like I did, put the new ones in. This XT hub had 10 bearings and I counted when I removed to make sure I had the right amount in there. Once you have 10 bearings on each side, put the axle back through with one cone and lock nut already on the other side. Then thread the cone on until you get a good pressure on the bearings. Spin the wheel and feel those bearings moving around on those cones. If you feel like there's too much pressure, there probably is. There should be basically no resistance happening here. This is a very fine-tuned feel, and you'll get a feel for what it's like when you over-tighten a cone. Once you have that cone in just the right place to make sure you have the least amount of resistance with the most structure to your hub, start reassembling, making sure that you put those washers on in the exact same order that they came off on, and then first tighten your lock nut down by hand. Once you have it tightened down by hand, put a cone wrench on that cone and then snug down the lock ring. I had to use a set of pliers because I didn't have a wrench laying around that was big enough, and I also had to tap out my cone wrench because for some reason the washers were not creating enough space for my cone wrench specifically. Test your hub by spinning it and making sure that cone is in the right place and that everything's running smooth. Once you have that done, torque down your rotor, make sure it's on the right way, and you are good to go. Thanks so much for watching OnePlus Bike. I'm Dan, and I'm excited that you were able to watch this video and learn a little bit from my mistakes. If you like what you saw, make sure you like this video, leave a comment if you have any improvements on my methods, which you most likely do, and don't forget to subscribe to the OnePlus Bike Journey.